Okay folks, temporary little placement if you got to do some of these koozies and you don't have a jig set up. So what I'll do, sometimes I have somewhere where I cut a piece of wood that I put in here and it stretches it out and keeps it almost flat and then kind of holds it, but I found this to work just as good. And like I always tell people that are new to start with leatherette or start with slate, because leatherette and slate are two of the most forgiving materials we can use. So there's a lot of room for play, and I'll show you. But anyway, I take these little magnets that I got from Home Depot and I'll put them inside here, and then while they're down there I just push them so that it kind of helps stretch it out, right? And it's not perfect, it's not going to make them super flat, but it's enough to get the job done. So I just stick them in there, stretch them apart, and you'll see it kind of leaves a nice flat surface. Now I have this piece of wood in here that I'm lining this up with. It's already secured to the top of my laser, to my jig that I use from the Clack Shack, I was doing keychains. But the reason I'm just doing it down here, because I just have to do 50 of these koozies real quick, and I'm doing other things, multitasking and working, so I just throw it down, line it up real quick, hit start, and go do something else. So I'm not messing with a jig or anything like that. And since this is already squared up, it's perfectly square. All I gotta do is line the top of this to that, push it forward, and it's square. So now we have a nice smooth flat surface. Now how I line it up, I'm not sure. Oh, dang it. I put my phone holder clip on the belt. Hold on, let me move this. Alright, we'll see if this works. I bought a new phone holder thing so that I don't have to hold the phone. And yeah, so I clipped it on the belt. So anyway, I'll show you how to quickly line this up, but I don't know that I can do it with the phone holder where it is, where you can see it. So I'm just going to point. And let me get a pointer. Alright. So, as you may or may not know, when you click the option, now this is all LightBurn. If you use XCS, I'm sorry for you. Learn LightBurn. But there may or may not be a way to do it in XCS, so I don't know. I'm not the one to ask about that. But when you go in LightBurn, you click on the Move tab and you click Fire on your laser. I have mine set to 2%. It'll fire the laser. And you can almost see a dot. Yeah, you can see the dot right there. Okay? So that's what I use to line it up. Now, since I have this so low, maybe another day when I do a different tutorial, I can move it up the laser. But for now, when it's down here, you're not going to be able to see it, right? So, here's what I do for easy centering and easy math, right? I already know I want my image to be 70 millimeters, and I want it in the center. This is 90 millimeters, top to bottom of the threads. So I make a square in LightBurn that's 90 millimeters square. Then I put my image at 70, and I center it. Oh, I have a phone call. Hold on a minute. Let me press end. Okay. Are we still recording? Okay, there was a phone call interruption. Cool. So anyway, now that I have that, I have my 70 millimeter design inside a 90 millimeter square in LightBurn. How do we center it, right? Now we know we're square to the gantry because I have it lined up here. If you don't have something that you can square it to, you can hit fire on the laser, put the beam here, move your laser head manually back and forth, right? And watch the dot travel. As long as the dot stays on the seam, then it's square. If not, then you'll have to move it like this or that to do that. So that's one way you can quickly square it up. Now another thing that I know is the distance from this point to this point is 25 millimeters. So the easiest way to square this up and get going in less than 2 seconds is turn your blue dot on, put it right here on this crease, go into LightBurn and set your distance to 12.5 for the movement, and then click the right arrow. It will move to 12.5 millimeters, which is half of 25, right there. Then you move it up to on top of these threads, and you're done. Then you set your origin to bottom middle on your project, you hit go, and that's it. So even though, excuse me, when I take this one out, put a new one in, it's going to move. All I got to do is put the dot, put it there, move it up, we're done. It's so simple. It takes me way longer to tell you about it than it does to do it. Now, one thing you could also do, if you have more magnets, you can always put a magnet here. But you see it's kind of moving it because I have a magnet inside, so that really doesn't work. But you could get like a stack of wood or a big block of wood, set it there, and do it on the other side. And then when you take this up and you put the new one down, you put it right inside there and you're good. You don't have to measure anymore. So there's a million ways to make temporary templates, right? But we're not going to worry about that. So let me just line this up real quick. I'll hit start. Y'all can watch it engrave, and we'll be done. Are we recording? Yeah, it looks like it. Alright, boys and girls, hello. Earlier, when I was talking about doing some things in LightBurn, I realized that some of you might not know what I was talking about, so this is just going to be real quick. And as I sit here and think about this, I probably am going to start doing some LightBurn tutorials. I don't know everything, trust me, but I know a lot that can help save time, so we might start throwing some of this in there. But all I wanted to show you was what I was talking about moving the laser around. Some of you may not know what that means. So let me open up that file that I was doing. Customers, this one, and Koozie, this one. Alright, as you see, my screen is super duper big, right? This little tiny thing up here is the file. That's because this is on my main computer. This is not hooked up to my lasers. My laptop runs the laser back there, and the ones outside, I carry the laptop back and forth. But I have this workspace huge because this is my working computer. So when I'm going to work on design, I want as much space as possible. I don't care about the actual bed size. So that's why you notice it's really massive. So we just zoom in, no big deal. Alright, so there's the file that I was working on in the video. And what I was talking about, as you see, this is my 90 up here. Oh, 70. This is the old file. It's 90 millimeters, right? Because that's the size of the threads. This is how I do it. The threads from here to there is 90 millimeters. I don't concern myself with this one. We just worry about top to bottom, and then depending on my image, I decide how big I want my image to be based on how much room I want, how much breathing room I want to have around the image, right? On the left and right. So, yeah, I didn't know the pen was out. Didn't draw on it. So with this particular image, I looked at it and I assessed that I wanted about 10 millimeter breathing room on each side. So I make the image 70 millimeters, which is what it is. Now it's not a perfect square image, so it's 70 tall and whatever it is wide, just whatever it lands on. So the outside, the tool line, I don't know how much I want to go into this. If you guys don't know about tool lines are down here. I think you can see my mouse, right? Down here in the bottom, the last two, T1 and T2, these are your tool lines. If you click the item, being this box, and you turn it either orange or blue, those are your two different tool line colors. Those are layers that will not be printed by the laser. So they're basically used for guidance. And in this case, I know I want 90, right? And then my image is here at 70. So what I was talking about, hey, the laser's done, it's noisy, is that moving the laser head, right? So when you want to use, if you're not using the red crosshairs, and hold on a minute, please. What?
Did you say turn it down?
No, I said don't mess with it and just shut the door, please. Thanks. Alright, so if you're not using the red crosshairs and you want to use the blue dot of your laser to move things around, that's what I do. I don't use the red crosshairs anymore. I don't have my other thing. Alright, anyway, so click over here in your panel. You should see okay, this was a good idea, but since I don't have a laser hooked up to it, I don't think it's going to show me. Let me see. Window. Move. Oh, it just turned off. Okay, again, because I don't have a laser hooked up here, I never bothered showing that. So, if you don't see this tab down here, you guys can see my mouse, right? All right. Next to cuts and layers, go up here to window, and then look. These are all the different windows that you can have open. You're looking for the window called Move, which is right there. So I click that, and you see that this tab now opened up. So over here is the power. You want to set this to 2 or 3%. I use 2. And then if you hit fire, it will actually fire your laser. It'll turn on, and the laser will make a dot. So you can do a lot of different things with that. So it's a good thing to learn to do that. Most importantly, you can line up your project if you're moving the laser head manually on the gantry. Like, I do that a lot with the xTool. Not so much with the CO2 because, you know, I have arrows on my controller that allow me to move that laser head around. So you can't move it with your hand anyway on the CO2, but it won't move. So anyway, on the diode we can, and I do, and I use that for exact spot placement. So, like I was stating before, we take this, we put our blue dot right there on the little intersection. It's in the other part of the video, and we go over 12. So what I meant by that was over here you see this option here for distance. You can set that to whatever you want, and then when you use these little sorry it's so small, guys. It's on my big monitor and the resolution's tiny because I multitask and use a lot of windows. But anyway, this little tiny thing here is probably bigger on your screen, and these are your up and down arrows where you can actually move the laser head, and these will move based on the distance right here. So this is where you can get accurate and finite in your placement. So I put it on the little spot there, and like I said, I know the distance between here and here is 25 millimeters. So we set this to 12.5. That's half of 25, right? And now when I hit this button to the right, because I used the left side, the laser head's going to move over 12.5 millimeters, and it'll now be perfectly in the middle. And then I move it up with my hand to put it on the threads. And now what I was talking about as well, as far as the positioning down here, set this to current position. And when I said bottom middle, I was talking about this dot right here. So if you use this dot and you place the laser right there, that means that the laser is going to start there. And when you frame it, it's going to come up, do its frame, backwards, trying to watch on the monitor, and do its frame and come back down. And when you start it, it's just going to start here and go up. Okay, so that's what I was talking about, those two things. I wasn't sure if people understood what I meant, so I figured I would toss this in there. Here's where you set your distance. Here's how you move your laser with the controls within LightBurn. And here's how you set your positioning when you're manually spotting things. Now, if you're doing something different, you use absolute coordinates, you have a template, cool, do that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just quick and easy manual placements to pop some products out. And that's what that was for. One other thing real quick, when talking about these koozies, you know, like I said, this is center, right? There somewhere, 12.5 over. So you might get a situation where your koozie is like this, right? Because it was smushed in shipping or something. So technically that would not be the center, right? No, it's still the center, because when you put a cup in it, and now it's a big ass cup, but you know, now it's back to being round and normal like it's supposed to be, that's going to be dead center on that front face. So don't look at it and be like, oh man, it's not centered now because it's like stupid like this. So don't worry about that. Just trust me when I tell you the distance in this cut is 25 millimeter. Measure yours, make sure. You know, they may not all be the same. Mine are, but maybe yours aren't. I don't know. So measure that, and whatever that distance is, start on the corner, cut it in half, move it with LightBurn, and now you're dead center. There might be other ways to do it, you know, whatever you want to do, but to me, that's a super quick way to find dead center, rather than trying to do math and find the center of this, right? Because there's a lot of different variables. It's not a perfect square, so in my mind, it's just easier to find the center on the bottom and start there. Because then you're only dealing with one plane, one line, one axis. You find the middle, and then the rest LightBurn can handle. So there you go. I'm going to inject this in the video somewhere. So I'm going to return you back to past tense Ernie. That will now be future tense Ernie doing things because you're watching it in the future, right? I don't know. All right, guys. Where's my button? I don't know where my button is. Stop recording. There it is. All right. So take it easy and go make some cool stuff. Bye. Hey, look. I can move this thing. Oh, don't fall. Don't fall. It's kind of cool, but she's a little wobbly. Yeah, this might be better. Let's see. I don't think it's going to hit anything. We'll put that right there. Zoom in a little bit. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the blue dot and where I line it up, but just in case. We'll have that there. I don't know. We'll find out. So there you see I lined the blue dot up. It's hard to tell, it's not focused, but I've lined that up right with that crease. So now I'm just going to go in LightBurn, hit move. And it moved over 12.5. Now I'm going to physically push it up to, oh, that's blurry. There we go. Push it up to right on the threads. So, like I know, between the threads is 90 millimeters. So nice and good. One thing I didn't go over, let me turn it off real quick. Alright, one thing I did not go over was setting focus. Now, since we have the magnets in there and it's making a quasi-flat surface, and I told you Leatherette's one of the more forgiving things, you can defocus Leatherette up to 1/4 inch or more and it'll still engrave just fine. As you start going further and further, you can lose detail, but the little minute amounts we're doing, you're not going to lose any detail. So if you look, when I put my little kickstand down, where you can't really see it, but it's there, move it back and forth. Go up here, move it back and forth, and all you're doing is you're making sure the kickstand doesn't hit anything, okay? So it does not. Now what I've done to ensure that, instead of moving the kickstand down and focusing to the leatherette, right, like that, because down here might be just slightly lower than up here, or something silly, because it's textured anyway. So with leatherette, I've always found it better so far just to go ahead and defocus up 1/8 of an inch. And I've got several videos about that. So you throw a piece of wood on there that's about 1/8 of an inch. You drop your needle down and you focus to that. Once you focus to that, you move it out of the way, take your wood out of the way. And now you've got a nice surface where you're not going to hit it with the little focus thing. And the engraving, you'll see, I'm defocused out 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch. And you're going to see that the engraving is still going to be super detailed with no problems. So now I got to line it back up again. I find it better to shine a flashlight when the dot turns into a really pinpoint dot. That's why you keep seeing light come on. So, there you go. the middle. Move it up. Right on the threads. And we're good. Turn it on. Go ahead and frame it. Looks like focus is probably going to be going in and out. I left the kickstand down, so that's good. We'll see how the video comes out. It looks like it keeps trying to autofocus to various things, so I don't know how to turn off the autofocus on this phone, but whatever. I'm going to stop it here and then restart it on a new video so I can edit it and speed it up later, and then we'll put the engraving on with it. And there we go. For those who are curious, Leatherette, all my Leatherette, especially this rawhide stuff, this is not counting the silver and the gold crap, but all my Leatherette that engraves black, especially rawhide, I do 8700 speed at 30% power on my diode at 20 watt. And I think I have the LPI at 400. No, I got it at 300, so 300 LPI. You can range it anywhere from 254 up to 400 if you want. It just depends on how minute some of the detail is in your engraving. Alright, she's done, and my camera moved. I was hooking up the light. Alright, so there we go. We can see it. It's still parallel, square to the gantry, all that good stuff. Zoom out. Oh, not that far. Alright, so some people might be wondering how to clean it, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. A lot of times I'll just take a little chip brush and just hit it real quick. All that does is keep my rags cleaner a little bit longer because there's a lot of loose soot up there, and when you go to wipe it with your rag, it's just gonna get on the rag, so might as well try to brush it off, right? And then we take, this is a different squirt bottle, so it doesn't do me any good to show you, but our LA Awesome. I get these little blue microfiber cloths at Harbor Freight, pretty cheap. They are washable. You can reuse them. Let me turn off that fan. They are reusable, but mine get pretty grimy, so I end up throwing them away. But they're pretty cheap. So I just take it and wipe it. There's nothing special, guys. Don't try to be too careful and too cute. I see it, look, see? I see a lot of nonsense online, people going through a million steps to clean their Leatherette. That's all you gotta do. You're not gonna hurt it by getting it wet. And in fact, if you go to the manufacturer who makes these anyway, not the manufacturer, but JDS, company that sells them, and you look at their tutorial that they have, they do the same thing. Don't overthink it. It's just soot. So there we go. We take that out, move it. There is our koozie. Nice and finite, right? Even though we defocused it 1/8 of an inch, doesn't matter. So there you go. And when I'm ready to do the next one, like I said, it takes way longer in the video, but it's only going to take me maybe 5 seconds to line up and do the next one. So I can knock these 50 out while I'm multitasking and doing other things. So there you go. Hope you learned something. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Alright, while I was setting up the next one, I wanted to show you guys something. Sometimes these koozies come and they're all bent up and wonky when you unwrap them. And like this one, you see it's got a nice bit of bowing. So this one's not bad. But this one was a little bit bent just from packing. And it's hard to tell with the camera, but this backside is elevated quite more than the front, okay? There's a big slope. So even though I backed off, I don't like it being that much of a difference from the back to the front. So when that happens, and it's usually going to be on the bottom end because of this. So what you can do to counteract that is get you another magnet and just put it on the back. Like that. You don't have to put a lot of pressure, right? Just kind of set it there, and if it's too much, back off a little bit. If you need more, bring it forward, right? So you figure that part out. You're the one that's there doing it. So in this case, it's a little bit high right over here, so I'm going to put the magnet over here, and it's going to bring this back down a little more level with that side. So just another little quick tip on what you can do to remedy things relatively quickly. So there you go. That one's set up and ready to go for the next one. All right, now we're leaving. Bye.